Good evening, good evening, good evening. We were attempting to wait on Mayor Pro Tem Compion, but we are unable to reach him at this time. And we do have the meeting has been called to order. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. The meeting has been called to order. As we were saying, for the record, we've been attempting to reach Mayor Pro Tem Compion with no success. We do have a quorum, and so we will proceed. The City of Lamarque City Council regular agenda of April 24th, 2023. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Lamarque, Texas will conduct a regular meeting on April 24th, 2023, beginning at 6 p.m. in the council chambers at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas, as well as via video conference hosted through Zoom. In accordance with section 551.127B of the Texas Local Government Code, the presiding officer and the quorum of the Lamarque City Council intend to be and will physically be present at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas. This location will be open to the public and the meeting will be broadcast at this location on Channel 16 and via YouTube. This council will meet for the purpose of considering the following agenda. The meeting has been called to order. Here, would you give us a roll call, please?
Councilmember District A.
Present.
Council members for districts B and C are not with us at this time. Councilmember District D.
Present.
And Mayor.
Present. Let us stand for the invocation. I will lead us in the invocation, and Caesar, would you please lead us in the pledge? Let's pray. Most holy God, we thank you first and foremost for your presence in our lives, for this great city that we call home, for every citizen, God, for every appointed and elected official. We pray that your wisdom prevail, that your grace be sufficient in our deliberations for those, Lord, that are members of this city. We trust you and we thank you in advance. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now have a presentation, and it is my honor and privilege to ask Senior Councilwoman Casey McAuliffe, in one of her last official acts of her term, to present the proclamation for Autism Awareness Month 2023. Councilwoman McAuliffe.
Do we have someone from Hope for Three here? Would you please step forward? May I present this to you? And why don't you stand over here so I can look upon you this way? A proclamation from the Office of the Mayor for the City of Lamarque. Whereas autism is the leading and fastest growing developmental disability in the United States, affecting 1 in 36 children. And whereas autism impacts areas of the brain that control socialization and various cognitive functions, which, while at times may be difficult, does not inherently diminish the quality of life for those who are affected. And whereas, while there is currently no identified cause or cure for autism, organizations like Hope for Three advocate, educate, and provide resources for communities and families of individuals with autism. And whereas, Autism Acceptance Month is a month-long event to promote the inclusion and acceptance of those with autism. And whereas the 2023 theme for Autism Acceptance Month is contribution of autistic people at home, at work, in the arts, and in policymaking. And whereas the City of Lamarque has honored Autism Acceptance Month throughout the month of April by participating in the Light It Up Blue campaign by lighting various city facilities in blue. And now, therefore, we, the mayor and the city council, by virtue of the authority vested by the City of Lamarque, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Autism Acceptance Month in the City of Lamarque. And we do hereby urge all the citizens of Lamarque to recognize this month by seeking education relating to autism. In testimony whereof, witness the hand and the seal of the City of Lamarque. This is the 3rd day of April 2023.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can we tell everyone who you are?
I am Darla Farmer. I'm the founder and CEO of a local nonprofit called Hope for Three. We provide resources and support to families living with autism, and Lieutenant Gandy and I have become dear friends over the last few years as he invited us out to Lamarque to help train law enforcement and firemen on the characteristics of autism. So incredibly proud of this. Thank you for recognizing me.
Certainly, we would like to invite certainly the Lamarque Fire Department to come forward as well. And I believe the Lamarque Police Department as well. Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. All right. Good to see you. Good to see you. This council and this administration on full support, as we have expressed in our all wearing T-shirts tonight. So we thank you for attending, and we thank the city of Lamarque and our citizenry for recognizing this wonderful, wonderful occasion. It's 5, citizens participation limited to 3 minutes. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who signed up to speak may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. If wishing to speak, you may give the mayor, the presiding officer, your full legal name, your address, and the item you wish to speak about. Compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Press *6 to mute or unmute if you're participating by telephone. Press the unmute button if you are participating via Zoom, smartphone, or tablet. There should be a microphone icon on your computer. And if you're standing in attendance, you may approach the podium to my left and to your right. Give your name, address, and you will be heard. Rachel Bryant. Good evening, Ms. Bryant. Name and address, please.
Rachel Bryant. My address is 106 Silver Glen Court, Lamarque, Texas 77568. I'm speaking on Article 8.11 regarding the rezoning of the area that's I guess it's kind of like a open field space that's being rezoned for commercial. And it is directly in the back of my house. And when I bought the house, I was informed that there would not be any construction or anything going on in that area. I have not received any notifications that that was going to take place. And it's brought to my attention that they are discussing building commercial property in that area. And I'm against it. So, yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bryant, we can't respond to you
Yes.
until we get to that agenda item.
Yes.
That's why we're just looking at you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Keisha Davis. Welcome, Ms. Davis. Name and address.
Keisha Davis, 110 Silver Glen Court, that's in Lamarque, Texas, 77568 Delaney Cove. And I am also here for the proposed rezoning of that area. And I am against it, and for reasons because it's going to bring more noise to our area, more traffic, and not to mention pollution and crime. So I am opposed to that situation. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Michael, please help me and forgive me at the same time. Hapanimi. Yes, sir. Welcome. Name and address.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Hapanimi, and I represent Piney Point Development LLC, which is the owner of the property that is under consideration for rezoning. I came here today to provide some comments for consideration based off of the discussion that occurred on the previous city council meeting. And I just wasn't sure if the appropriate time to provide comments would be during the discussion, so I don't want to take up too much time during
Sure.
the citizens' comments.
If you are in fact, and we know that you are, we believe you to be the owner of that property, you will be allowed to have discussion in that line item, certainly.
Great.
We will invite you to come and have discourse with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. David Pennington. Welcome, David. Name and address.
David Pennington, 924 Cypress. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm here to talk about omissions that are causing undue hardships on board and commission members, interested parties who come before these various boards, and costs it is incurring on the taxpayers of the city. 2 of the last 3 meetings of the Building Standards Commission have been canceled due to improper posting of the agenda. The agenda was not posted. This is an ongoing problem. On numerous occasions, I have informed the city manager of this issue, and yet it still continues. The Board of Adjustment meeting on April the 4th was canceled because of improper posting. Last year, 3 of the 14 charter review meetings had to be canceled because the agenda was not posted or either was posted with the wrong dates. This cannot continue. Boards and commission members carve out their time from their personal lives to voluntarily serve our community. Some rearrange their work schedules to attend the meetings. And to have meetings canceled minutes before it starts creates an undue hardship and inconvenience that is totally unnecessary. What about those interested parties that appear before these boards and commissions? What about their time? At the February 14th Building Standards meeting, we had attorneys from Houston that were present to speak and conduct business. I heard that there was an individual who had flown in from out of town just to attend that meeting. It's not fair to them, and it shows a total lack of confidence on the part of the city when we cancel a meeting minutes before it starts. And what about the cost to the taxpayers? Some of the boards and commissions require public announcements to be published in the newspaper. The announcements for the February 14th meeting cost $219.15. And since the meeting was canceled, it's costing the taxpayers double. What about the mailing cost? Adjacent property owners and persons of interest have to be notified by certified mail of the meeting. What about the cost of paper and the staff time to prepare a new agenda? I don't like to see my tax dollars wasted, and that is exactly what is happening due to the lack of detail and lack of concern on the part of city staff. Speaking of city staff, who changed the policy on posting agendas on the city website? If you go look at the building standards meeting for February 14th and April 11th, they're not there. They are not annotated as canceled. I was at the February 14th meeting, and it was literally canceled 2 minutes before it was scheduled to start. Ms. Yancey was there, commission members were there, interested party was there, but according to the website, that meeting never existed. It wasn't canceled, it just disappeared. And the same thing happened to the meeting on April the 11th. Is city staff afraid that people are going to start adding up the number of canceled meetings, start asking questions? In the past, canceled meetings have been posted as canceled. Why the sudden change? The city council owes the citizens who volunteer their time and the taxpayers some accountability for the omission of acts on the part of city staff. I hope you will take this under advisement and pursue actions to correct this ongoing action. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, David. Mr. Lowry, name and address.
Joseph Lowry, 2503 Cedar Drive. I wanted to bring some, I'm sure you've all heard about it, probably on social media. I've been real vocal about it, but just in case, I want to bring it to council's attention, city manager, city attorney, whatnot. I had my driver's license illegally suspended by our police chief about a year ago. And it was reinstated. It was done illegally. Now you guys are all aware of it. So hopefully there can be some corrective action taken against Mr. Aragon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. Shaw Loftus. Name and address, sir.
Good afternoon, Rashard Loftus, 309 Johnson Street. Just a second here. I come before you as a member of the Keep Lamar Beautiful Commission. This Saturday, we had our citywide cleanup. So I just wanted to give y'all a quick brief account of the amount of trash and what have you that we collected. I also want to thank our commission members, Lindsay Gonzalez, Terry Pettijohn, Ashley Stewart, and Miss Kathy Heron Keith. Also, we had some volunteers from the AKA sorority. We had 15 of those ladies come out. I want to recognize the Public Works Department, Public Relations Officer JB Pritchard also came in and helped. Mr. Joe Compion graced us with his appearance, as did the city manager. As far as the trash we collected, we had 8 dumpsters. We filled up 7 to the top. And we also had the shred truck. I got a report from Waste Management this morning that we got 3,200 pounds of shredded materials was collected. They weren't able to give me a total on the amount of dumpsters, the trash in the dumpsters, because they were still picking them up today. So I don't have that information. But some of the stuff that was collected were tires. We had 129 tires that we collected. Also, there was approximately 111 citizens that drove through and deposited whatever it was they brought, which consisted of tree limbs, refrigerators, furniture, fence material, electronics, brush, and a lot of other household miscellaneous items. We didn't collect any paint and hazardous materials. We had to turn some people away because they brought those items and we weren't taking those. So that's just a brief summary of what took place with the cleanup this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loftus. Randy Ruiz. Welcome, Mr. Ruiz. Your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Randy Ruiz, 1210 Purtle Street. When I first moved to Cedar and Purtle about 4 years ago, the neighborhood was in pretty bad shape. On many occasions, it was a lot of shooting and fighting. I remember playing outside and was told by my parents to come inside due to people fighting. And as soon as I went inside, they started shooting. I'm glad I listened to my parents, but since Ms. Yancey, Mayor Bell, and this council been in office, things have changed for the better. And I just want to say thank you for the hard work.
Thank you, sir. Robert Mistich. Welcome. Name and address for the record.
Robert Midstitch, 24 North Curlew. Speak about my councilman, Mr. Michael Carlson. He has accepted a job. He's, as of Monday, is officially a fire chief in the state of Oregon. He has refused to step down and relinquish his position here on this council. Last Wednesday, I initiated a recall that will go to remove him. The only way that will stop this recall, and it will be successful, which will then trigger that the council will have to hold a special election to remove him if he doesn't step down, and then another special election to replace him. But the only way this thing will be stopped is if Mr. Carlson immediately resigns, effective immediately, and the council accepts that resignation with no strings and accepts it effective immediately. That is the only thing that will nullify this recall, or it will go further. My last thing, if you take a look back where Mr. Pritchard is standing by the board out there, you'll see the new zoning on the map. District B That is Councilman Compion, who is up for election, and Mr. Justin McDonald, who is running for that position. All of District B on that map is on the west side of town, and we have always had a polling place over there somewhere, and when the Hitchcock School District stopped it, we did it at the fire station. But now all of a sudden, we've only got one polling place right here in this building. So everybody on the west side of town, everybody has got to come over here to vote. I am appalled at this council, at everyone on this council. That is the ultimate form of voter suppression. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Ginger Manet. Welcome, Ms. Ginger. Name and address for the record, please.
809 Grassy Knoll Trail, Lamarck. I actually have three things that I'd like to comment on. The first one is the rezoning of the residential commercial property over at Delaney. It will cause more traffic that the road is not equipped for. In the drawings that have been submitted, it shows 4 lanes, 2 on each side. That is a 1 lane on each side. We already have a lot of traffic as it is. We're going to have more traffic when that subdivision is finished being built. You allowed a Dollar General to come in. I've already got Dollar General bags in my backyard. I mean, it's trash. And, you know, we don't need more commercial property out there. We're growing as residentials back there and we don't need it. My second one, well, really, there's 2 of them that are the same. The registration and rental units that are required to fill out or register with the city. Does that apply? As you know, we have Camillo Properties in our back section, which again, does not take care of their properties. Fences are falling down. The people who rent back there do not care because they're not homeowners, they're renters. So why would they care? So my question is, which I know you can't answer me now, but you can when we discuss it, is Camillo Properties going to have to register with the city? They have a lot of homes back there and they do not take care of it, which brings down the value of our homes. That's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Ms. Ginger.
Thanks, Judge.
Mr. Corey McCara. Welcome, Corey. Name and address to the record.
Corey McCara, 111 Silver Glen, president of Delaney Cove. To add to what Ginger said, yeah, she's 100% right. It's just a 2-way street. Now, the last time you guys did the traffic study was 2 years ago. And that was before I even built the bridge for the whole new entire section. And since then, it has increased traffic dramatically, right? Interesting enough, watching the video of hearing that all the letters were sent out, I went ahead and took the liberty of actually walking to every single resident and taking the time to ask them, have they sent letters? And I got 3 of them. Did y'all raise your hand if y'all got any letters? Raise your hand. No? You never? I didn't either. Man, I wonder if the rest of them did. So anyways, when we heard about this, it was like, why would we want another strip center when I already have one at Gulfway? Yeah. That's half full. Now, I went ahead and took the liberty of calling Gulfway and asked him, would you mind if we can help strategically fill in businesses to help with the tax revenue and help, because Lamarck's always open for business, right? So I'm willing to do that. However, we got to put a pause on this. I know that Piney Point wants to put a strip center, but you don't know, or you do or you don't, it doesn't really matter. Piney Point also can do residential, and that's what they bought it for originally. It wasn't for commercial. Now I've been on Silver Glen for 6 years. So on that whole entire section, nothing's ever flipped or changed. Here's another thing too, which you have not considered. Right across on the other side of Texas Avenue, I have a complete new development that is currently going on. It's currently starting to break ground, but it's also next door to Saltgrass. They only have one entrance and one exit. And so far that is Texas Avenue, which is still a 2-way street. So I hope this makes sense where you guys see where we're coming from, because at the end of the day, it's just going to cause more chaos. And that's what I'm trying to eliminate here. Oh, I understand that we're open for business. I would, I'm an enterprise sales. I have a lot of really good ties up in Houston and so forth. Be more than happy to help, but not in our backyards. So,
Sure.
oh, one last thing. There's a letter that I have from Tony and Nina Jimenez. You guys don't know them, and my neighbors don't because they can't come out. They live at 430 Arbor Glen. Now, what's interesting about these people is they are bordered with that strip center. Tony Jimenez is a quadriplegic, so he can't move. I actually spoke to them. And Nina is his wife, which is a stroke victim. So they were able to vote no for the rezoning. And these people are on their last breath, people. Like they're just waiting for their last days. And the last thing we want to do is
Continue.
is to give them more noise and more chaos.
Sure.
So my heart definitely dropped. I mean, of course, from you guys too, but for these elderly people.
Yes, sir.
So it's a community.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Tanisha Moore. Her name and address of the record. Scared you, huh?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanisha Moore. Address is 107 Silver Glen. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Corey said, when we purchased our home, and I've been there for 6.5 years. When I purchased my home, I purchased it as a residential home, not something that will be built up to be commercial. That information was not forgiving. And we would like to keep it that way. As he was saying, there's a new development coming up on the across the street on 1765. And right now, considering it's a major traffic jam now. So along with the new development and now commercial property, like it's going to be a disaster. I've added so much value to my home. We've put in, I don't know, 60, 70,000. We built a new pool, and everything in my backyard to make our home our forever home, and definitely won't be our forever home if we decide to do a commercial development. It just won't be. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any online wishing to speak out?
I would please.
Excuse me?
Me, please. Sarah.
Address, ma'am.
Sarah Doherty. Address is 2503 Cedar Drive.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to read a text message that was provided to me so it can be on record. This is a group text message between some of the members that took an oath to be on the City of Lamarque Council and boards. These members are supposed to be the faces of Lamarque members that we as citizens are supposed to trust in order to, quote, forward together. The text message reads as follows. Good morning. I started this text to bring us all on one accord. We all here have the same goals, forward together, and to expose those that are openly and secretly trying to destroy us as a community, family, and friends. We must band together and spread the word to those who want to join our fight. Not everyone is meant to be a part of it. We must choose wisely. We spoke last night on formulating a plan. Let's put it together and destroy these devils. Joseph Lowry is job number 1. You kill snakes by cutting off its head. So we expose him first for what he is. We go after his business and his future clients, putting his hate online for them to see and take the money he brags off from him. Then we move to the next one who sticks his or her head out the sand. Alrighty, that's not okay. You guys are all supposed to be leaders that lead by example. And I can assure you this is not the way to do it. This is a personal attack by our small city government against a local taxpayer in his business. Not only are you all trying to take away from him, but you're taking away from the employees of his business. These employees go out every single day. They work hard. and have to make a living for their families. How does that look on the mark? Because you're all mad at the fact that you're being called out on proven corruption. No, that's not okay. You're going to try to shut it down by going after a citizen that is allowed to have freedom of speech, that is allowed to question where the money's going. No, not okay. I'm asking for the citizens of Lamarck to be aware of what is really going on. Even though you may not all agree with some things, how it's stated or whatnot, just please get active. Please question. Is that what you want for our youth? Do you want this to continue to happen? Just please lead by example. And we don't run our city like prison politics. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. And we appreciate each and every comment as it has been given to us, and council will certainly take those comments into consideration.
Thank you.
Minutes. Regular meeting minutes, April 10th, 2023. Special meeting minutes, February 13th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Are there any, excuse me? Go ahead. Go ahead, no, go ahead. Second. Are there any additions and additions, subtractions, or corrections? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7, public hearings. Conduct public hearing to hear public input on 7-1, ordinance number letter O 2023-0002, amending chapter 14, buildings and building regulations, article 11, entitled registration for rental units required, making various findings and provisions related to the subject and providing for an effective date. We will close this regular meeting at
6:39.
we will open the public hearing at
6:39.
Is there any persons to my right or to my left or persons online wishing to speak to ordinance letter O -2023-0002? You may come and approach Mr. Loftus, name and address for the record. Did I see another hand? Ms. Ginger, you may follow Ms. Ginger.
Rashard Loftus, 309 Johnson Street. I wanted to say that I'm for this rental ordinance because I live next door to a rental tenant who, for the last 13 years, has pretty much violated every city ordinance that he possibly can, and the landlord has allowed it. So there needs to be some kind of enforcement on these landlords that come into our city, rent out these properties, and become slumlords. We have an abundance of that. Ms. Ginger just mentioned that, and I have witnessed it, and I'm living it right now, and I'm very disgusted about it.
Mhm.
So we definitely need this ordinance to be in place with strict fines for these landlords who just don't care. And I've come before this council about this one particular property since 2010. And as of to date, she and he has still not complied with any of the things that the city has put in front of them. Letters, certified letters, they don't answer them. And something needs to be done about it. There's no reason that we should have rules in place and we don't enforce them. So let's please get this ordinance passed and enforce it. There's no reason to have rules on the books if y'all not gonna enforce it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ginger Manet, name and address for the record, please.
Ginger Manette, 809 Grassy Knoll Trail. Again, we have Camilla Properties in the back of our section. I am definitely for this. They should have to register, they should have to pay. So I don't know if they are or if they aren't. I don't know who looks into that. I don't know. So I definitely want to make sure they have to pay that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Who does?
And I mean, can we,
Yeah.
let's speak to that. I think that's deserves an answer.
Yes, our staff is responsible for taking a look at that and establishing the fact that we're going to go through and audit all the folks, the rental homes that have paid in the past to ensure that we get full compliance. Thank you.
So is that
Yeah,
more specifically a yes or no on Camilla right now?
Camilo Helms has several that they've already put in the program. I believe they have over 100. I have to confirm.
Okay,
But we'll confirm specifically the addresses in question.
okay. So there are some in the
Yeah.
program.
And
But
I will work with the HOA members as well. If any of them can identify some that we may have missed
Yeah.
or have changed or once home ownership that have now been switched to.
Yeah.
rental.
And I can speak to the fact that as part of the conversations we've had up here, absolutely, it's any rental property that is being commercially rented. The only exceptions that have been made were they're stated in here specifically about if it's being rented to a family member. Correct? Is that right, Gus?
That's correct.
Okay. So if you're in that type of situation, that's where the fee wouldn't apply. But yeah, and it would be every single unit of Camillo, not just one fee for 100 homes. It should be every single one. And if I'm hearing correctly, we know that Camillo has many, but maybe not all, and we're going to be doing an audit. Okay. Sorry, I wanted that to be clear.
Sure. Any other
Yep.
persons wishing to speak under public hearing item 7.1? Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record.
Sandra Lafferty, 1302 Ross. I have the unpopular opinion of I'm actually against this ordinance. I think that it will fall back on the renters. I think that renters and homeowners should both be held accountable for the mess and the trash and be fined. However, I think that paying a fee to a city code enforcer who's going to come out and inspect my home, who's going to allow these code enforcers to come into their home? Because I can tell you a lot of people are going to be like, no, I don't want you to come into my home. People this is their private homes and things like that. So we're going to end up wasting a lot of this money and paying for a lot of these code enforcers to go and inspect these homes when renters aren't going to allow it. They're not going to want these people to come into their homes. And I think that fee is just going to get put on the renter, and the homeowner's not going to change anything, because once again, like Loftus said, we have all of these codes, but we don't enforce them. So until we start enforcing these things and for homeowners and for renters, I'm sorry, but I oppose it.
Thank you, Ms. Lafferty. Any other persons wishing to comment on public hearing item 7.1? Mr. Mishtich, name and address for the record, sir.
Robert Mitchstich, 24 North Curlew. In Omega Bay subdivision, I'm on that HOA board. We had a problem with short-term rental, which is not captured under this thing. And as I understand, y'all are not doing anything on it as of yet, which I think Mr. Garcia knows you need to. But we were looking for some help because we had a short-term rental. We said, well, are they even being registered? Well, Ms. Van Stavern told us that we don't care about short-term rentals and we're not tracking them. And we only look at the water bill, and if the water bill is in the owner's name, we're not even considering it a rental. That's what we were told. So I haven't heard that from her in up here. I hear different numbers as far as how many properties we have in this city, but I'm not sure y'all even know for sure. We started this thing about 4 years ago when I was on council, and I still stand by it. But at that time, even $100 was a lot, but it was $100 for the first unit and then $25 for after that. It wasn't a money grab. And at that time, we could have contracted it for $10 a door. And that was going rate for a lot of companies that would do this for you. And I heard Ms. Van Stavern say, well, they've got to do all these title searches and everything. Well, no, all the information is on CAD, and the property owner's information that isn't available to an individual is available to a municipality as far as all the contact information. So once all that's built into a simple spreadsheet, it's there. So, maybe y'all should have her bring her laptop and put a demonstration up on these viewers so that we can see how just how this software works. It shouldn't be actually a software. It should just be a simple Excel spreadsheet. But if you know how to use it. All I'm saying is we get stories different ways that, oh, you're only tracking on a water bill. Well, how about my neighborhood? I'm on MUD 12. Y'all never see our water bills. So how does that apply? You know, I mean, come on, you got to be able to track a rental property more than just a water bill. But this thing is not that expensive. And it shouldn't be a money grab. And that's what I see it as, even at $50 a door. That's a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Any other persons wishing to speak to public hearing, item 7.1? Yes, ma'am. You may approach.
For those of you that don't know, I am on the Saltgrass HOA board, and we have an inspector that comes out every month and they inspect the properties as they should. They do it with Camillo as well. Those violations go to Camillo, and then after so many on one home, Camillo is able to fine that renter a fee. So I don't know if y'all knew that or not. We are not allowed to because we don't have it in our bylaws, but Camillo has it in their paperwork that they give the renters. So they're making money off of violations, and it's just not right.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know if y'all have been back there, but it's pretty trash.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Any other persons wishing to speak to public hearing, item 7.1? Again, we thank you for all of your comments. We will close the public hearing at
6:48.
and we will open the regularly scheduled meeting at
6:48.
item 8, ordinances, discussion possible action regarding approving 8.1 ordinance number letter O-2023-0002, amending chapter 14, building and building regulations, article 11, entitled registration for rental units required, making various findings and provisions related to the subject and providing for an effective date. This is the second and final reading. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
There's a second. I
There's
second.
a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
one of the things, and it's not going to happen tonight on this one, but I think there is still need, and Mayor, you referenced it, I think when we initially had this discussion, we all need some clarity with regard to what are the expectations of the landlord, what are the expectations of the tenant under this particular ordinance. And I think that's where we're still having some confusion, or at least I'm confused, and I'll readily admit it. What is it that we're going to be doing and in order under this particular ordinance? Now, having said that, I'm going to be tracking that as a follow-up item so that we bring that back. And Mr. City Manager, I want to work with you, staff, on this particular item. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
And I agree. I think Ms. Lafferty brought up a good point, that I do, obviously, I've said this many times up here, but I am in favor of there being a monetary obligation among those who decide to rent their homes, or if it's a corporation or if it's an individual. I believe in attaching a fee to that, but I do also agree that it will be a sensitive thing to navigate, and we have to think through the processes of how is that going to happen once you're registered, and how does the communication go with the owner of the property, but how is it communicated to the residents, the tenants? So I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So what I'm going to add to that, Mayor, is that as a former housing official as a director of public housing, and a best practice of cities, rental registration is something that best practice of cities do because we have a lot of people who own homes in Lamarque, but they don't live here, right? And so they tend to, some of them, not all of them, not take as great care. I'm on the Building Standards Committee. We see it all the time with some of the slum landlords that we have. The rental registration basically makes sure that there's a standard, right? There's a standard that the city had said, if you're going to be a landlord in our city, these are the standards, right? Because we want to make sure that our residents are living in not squalor, but habitable homes. The pandemic showed a lot of us in the community that a lot of our citizens were not living in habitable homes. And so this is a way that we, as a city, can partner with social agencies like Meals on Wheels and Tech City Housing Authority to make sure that we can come together as a city to say we have to have a housing standard. And this is just one of the ways to do that and to let people know this is the new Lamarque, where we are trying to raise a standard of excellence when it comes to what we will allow in our city. And unfortunately, in the past, there has been some issues with that, with the condition of some of our homes in our city. So that's why there's been a lot of research into this. And I'm one that I'd really like to be a voice, but also to look at what are best practices for cities. And that's a winter registration is just one of them. But I do agree with you, Joe. We do need to have some clarity and some protocols on what that looks like and what's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step so that all of our landlords are clear. I also agree with Councilman Mistich on, I think we've already talked about it, on an audit to make sure how many do we actually have. Because we don't want our city to become a place where people have a building, but they're using it as storage. And I know we're working on that as well. But I really love listening to the comments, but it is necessary to make sure that we have a standard of living in our city.
No, we cannot allow that, Mr. Loftus. That was a public hearing and this is now. Appreciate you though.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. So years ago, one of the problems that we were having with crime was that crime was happening in abandoned structures. And that started this abatement program that has been successful, this neighborhood revitalization that has been successful throughout the city. The next phase of that, we learned and we understood that much of the crime was still happening in structures that were being leased to folks, and those structures tended to be substandard. There is an association with substandard properties and poor folks and crime. That's proven, that's documented. So one of the things that we tried to do with this rental ordinance was, Ms. Lafferty, to empower the citizenry, the residents, because back in those days, many of us as council members received complaints about substandard living conditions, and they were complaints that were directed toward city government, but there were complaints that should have been directed toward property owners because city government at that time was powerless to intervene. And so this was a tool for poor folks, for folks living in substandard properties, to be able to access city government, to be able to ask for an inspection from a code enforcement officer to come out and to make sure that the properties that they're leasing are properties that are compliant with all of the local, federal, state code, so on and so forth. That was that. I can't let you speak, but I'm just answering you. You said something. I wanted to answer you. I couldn't really answer you in public hearing. And so that was the intent. The intent was to empower those that were renting, give them the ability to have the same level of housing that many of us have each and every day. And if we were able to do that successfully, what we thought would happen is that crime would be reduced in those areas because those property values would raise, right? And the folks living in those homes, their worth would raise, right? A rising tide raises all boats. That was the idea. Now, that vision needs to become more clear to this council because this is an entirely different council. I said all of that to say, this is what this rental registration program was really about. If it is, or it has become something more than that, then this council has the obligation to make sure that it is limited to that. And so as we do that, to Joe's point, to Casey's point, and to Kim's point, we have a lot of work to do. First of which, in my opinion, is to find out, Caesar, why it is that we only have 40 to 60% of our potential rental units as a part of this program, and we are in year 4, 5 of the program. Thank you. Council, is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8.2, ordinance number letter O dash 2023 dash 0003, amending the city's zoning map and comprehensive plan by changing the zoning regulations of real property commonly known as 5401 FM 1765 Lamarque, Texas 77568. This item was tabled from last meeting. We will open this item for discussion purposes at this time, potentially for action at a later time. Who wants to start this discussion?
Mayor, could you clarify that?
We are
This is-
opening this discussion on this ordinance, item 8.2, for discussion purposes only right now. And then if the council so chooses to act after this discussion, we can, right, tonight.
That was-
Right, tonight.
That's not good. I'm sorry.
There's a property owner that wants to speak to us. There are residents that here, I'm sure they want to have some sort of a rebuttal or ask questions of the council and the property owner. So we want to discuss first. And then hopefully council will form an appetite for action. And so who wants to go first?
Well, Mayor, then.
Go ahead.
Let
Go
me
ahead, Joe.
follow through on that. I think one of our challenges and as a community, I heard this from residents here at the council event, is that, I mean, at the chamber event, is our process of government. And these changes or proposed changes don't get on our radar as council until they become part of an ordinance or a proposed ordinance. And in reality, this has been on the agenda of the zoning board, right?
Planning and
For
zoning.
several,
Mhm.
planning and zoning for several, maybe months on this, looking over these things. So that is an opportunity for us to perhaps correct that. We need better, and city manager, I'm looking for you. And unfortunately, I look to you for so many things because that's who I can only look to, right? Is to help us improve that. At least give us, I know you send out, or someone does, I see the little text message that says, planning and zoning is meeting tonight, right? But unless I'm aware of activities or highlights, given the other activities that I'm involved in, it's not at the top of my priority list unless I see something zoning in Delaney Cove or Saltgrass or things of this nature, right? In other words, let's put it in layman's terms. Please know that these are the highlights of the meeting. And then perhaps I'll come to the meeting or be involved or reach out and take a closer look at the items that are there to educate myself. It really becomes my individual responsibility at that point. So this is one of those items that speaks to that area where I think that I personally can do better with your assistance.
So we knew this item was on the agenda tonight, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So who do we have from developmental services to represent us in this discussion?
I am not representative for tonight.
Okay. So why wouldn't we have a representative tonight? Out of all nights? Why wouldn't that representative be here to speak to some of what we are going to have to speak to? Are you prepared to do that? Oh, okay,
And
I
to be
appreciate
clear-
you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, to be clear, she's on vacation too, right?
She's
That's
out.
that's the reason. I just put the chair. Okay.
Are you prepared to speak to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. I do not, please don't make me mess your name up, sir.
I got it.
Mr. Hapanini, you may approach. What we have here tonight is a discussion about your property. It was brought before this council last meeting. And in the midst of our discussion, we paused on moving forward until we had a chance to hear from the residents in that area. And so tonight we have the presidents of the adjoining subdivisions, Saltgrass and Delaney Cove here with us, as well as the council representatives of both of those districts. And you have the floor here, sir, to speak. Please give us your name and the name of your company again.
Sure. My name is Michael Hapanimi and my company is Piney Point Development.
Okay, you may proceed.
Okay. Well, thank you for the consideration of our application. We were able to hear the comments from the last meeting and wanted to just address a few specific items in addition to some of the concerns that the community or residents of the nearby neighborhoods may have. I'd just like to also mention that this has gone through the Planning and Zoning Committee and was unanimously approved by that committee. I was told that the standard for approval for a rezoning is that it has to enhance the community or it has to not be feasible for the current zoning. So I think after hearing the council talk last time, it was clear, there was a comment, I'm not sure who mentioned it, that this property is not feasible for a residential subdivision. And so I believe that that was one of the main points from the Planning and Zoning Committee that unanimously pushed them through. In addition, I also believe that we will meet the criteria for the other alternative condition, which is to enhance the neighboring community. I think we're all aware how much development is going in and how much residential is being developed in that area, especially not only Delaney Cove, but what's happening across the street. We did believe that a neighborhood retail center would provide the community with some convenient retail opportunities that are not currently being met. And as the area continues to grow, we think that, certain businesses like, nail salon, daycare, convenient restaurants could be an opportunity for the community as they grow, not only with the residents that we have here. And I might also add that I'm sure that there are always going to be some people who are against having, commercial nearby their properties, but I also would have you guys consider the fact that there may also be many residents in the area who would appreciate having a modern neighborhood retail center at their disposal. I'd also like to mention, as part of our application, we created 2 high-level site plans and renderings to simply illustrate to the committee the high-level type of projects that we had in mind. These were not meant to be final architectural designs, and we must wait to receive rezoning approval before committing to and investing in a full architectural and design process. I actually did recreate the designs so clearly not a 4-lane road, and I think that was a oversight on the designer. I have new designs if you guys would like to take a look at them. But to my point, this was simply a illustration to the committee, the type of projects that we had in mind. Should we receive approval for the rezoning, we also plan to work closely with the city of Marque on any development project to ensure that we comply with all the design criteria, the city ordinances, which includes noise and tidiness, consistency of architecture, which I think was brought up in the last meeting as well, preventing negative traffic impacts, and maintaining an orderly site. These are all important items. And any development will work closely with the city staff and engineers to ensure compliance. And we are cognizant of our proximity to residential neighborhoods, to Delaney Cove. And we hope that we can be not only a great neighbor, but also a great addition to the community. And that's all the comments that I have. I would also, I guess, one last thing, like to mention that, you know, we are aware that the city is interested in pursuing economic development. And I think that this area is prime, not only for growth in residential, but with great opportunities to create economic development in other ways. So we hope to be a positive impact on the community. So thank you.
And we sure would like to see those. And
Sure.
Thank you for coming, and certainly we want to hear you, and we want you to be heard. Thank you for this. Thank you for the time you put into this.
Would you entertain some questions? Am I permitted to ask him questions?
Sure,
Mayor?
sure.
Yeah, I have some questions if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
So we're gonna need you to go back to the podium. We're gonna open this for council questioning. And then we're going to allow for some of our representatives of the community to come back to address council. Don't know that we're gonna let you all have a conversation with each other. Don't know if Gus is gonna allow that, but you all can talk back to us. Your representatives, and that would be Corey and Ginger. Sounds fair? All right. Go ahead, Joe, with your question.
So, number one, thanks for being here. That's bold, right? And I always like that, appreciate that. And mind you, it's not a question of being against a commercial endeavor. It's just in this particular vicinity, it is a planned community. And when I hear the term, as many others, and as I've been to my municipal league meetings and economic development meetings, that's a collaborative approach, right? So the developers of Sawgrass, the developers of Delaney Cove, then with independent businesses have come together, and they meet regularly to talk about possibilities, right? My first question is, how long have you owned this land, your development group?
We purchased this land in December.
Just this past December?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so, and was it represented? You knew it was residential, correct?
That is correct.
And was it represented to you at any time during the sale that, oh, you can, not a problem, we can get this changed to commercial?
No, we did not purchase it with the intent of converting it to commercial. We did explore residential opportunities, and we decided that it was not feasible for residential, and that's why we decided to apply for rezoning for commercial.
What's the problem with the not being residential in your?
Well, okay, there could be a 2-acre single home on that piece of land, but from a development standpoint, it was not feasible for a small subdivision. There are economic reasons, but also simple things such as turnaround radiuses of, for fire code that would make it such that the plots of land would not be even marketable for things like that we decided. Yes.
And how about alternate uses such as green space? We have a need for green space out in that area, a small little neighborhood park, and perhaps working somehow with us, the city or other.
Sure.
I happen to be on Houston Galveston Area Council. We have funding in the park section, perhaps working with us as an ultimate objective if the community gets behind something like that. I just have difficulty knowing that area, right? Sure. Is this commercial space right there in the middle? Actually, I had even going before, I have difficulty with that Dollar General that was put over there as well too, right? It's not what I consider planned. Sure. And on that side. So, so I appreciate your being straightforward.
Absolutely.
And I did not realize, I thought I was going to get you in one of those moments that, oh, we've had this land for 20 years and,
Sure.
you know, that's.
Let's educate the public here, at your expense, unfortunately. The reason Dollar General gets to go in and you have to come before council is, I'm sure Dollar General was already zoned commercial. And when that happens, the council is powerless. That's why we couldn't stop the Dollar General. And I'm leaving that alone, Gus. Moving to you, there's a zoning change and council has that power. That's why we're able to do our due diligence on this one. I wanted to clarify why one is able to move forward and why another one has to go before council. Are there any other questions for this developer? When you purchased this, did you know it was zoned residential?
Yes, sir. Just to follow up on that, as I mentioned to the previous gentleman, we purchased it and did go through some due diligence to look at building out a residential small subdivision development type of project. But as I mentioned, we did not see that it was feasible for a variety of reasons, economic and coding. And, you know, we are developers at the end of the day, but, you know, there are certain criteria that we have to meet for, from an engineering standpoint from the city, that made it not feasible to, for us to go that direction. So this is why we're here today to consider a neighborhood type of retail project.
You said from an engineering standpoint from the city. Can you help us to understand what that was about?
Yeah, and the example that I use, which was kind of the main sticking point there, is, you know, there are certain items that we have to meet. Like I said, the turnaround radius of a small street, right? That has to be a certain size. And when I discussed with the architects, they kind of showed that, you know, you're going to not really have marketable lot sizes up around there, that area. So it's very limiting for the potential use.
So that would be Chief Merriman. Would that be this turning radius? Would that be something that we are as a city requiring because of our fire apparatus being able to maneuver in and around that?
Correct. The city adopted the 2018 fire code, and it specifically spells out unless there's a secondary means of egress, the turning radius of the cul-de-sac is the minimum requirement for apparatus.
So now we're talking lot size. We're talking lot size now.
Yes, sir.
So did you ever consider property improvements that require smaller lot sizes? Like your townhome style developments that are still residential?
Yes, sir. We actually did. And we actually brought that before the Planning and Zoning Committee. But we didn't think that that would be a great addition to the community. They also did not believe that that would be a great project. So, yeah.
Well, what I would say at this juncture, I feel for you. But it sounds like to me, the community, and we'll get them to reaffirm this if they so choose. They've heard you, heard your response. Sounds like they don't want commercial development, which means they realize that it has to be developed. So perhaps there might be a conversation that has to take place with those members to see what they may support. But as it stands, those are our constituents. And we definitely have to weigh what their desires are for their communities because we represent them, and you can understand that. So we'll allow them to come back. Ladies first. Ginger, I don't know if you have any comments for us as of, you know, according to what you heard.
Could I add something to?
You may add something. While you all work amongst yourselves, you may go ahead.
I just kind of wanted to reiterate to the council, and perhaps this is some sort of engagement to potentially get some voices in the community that would like some sort of retail option who may support this. I think, you know, of course, there people who may be against this are going to come out potentially more strongly. But I would also just kind of like to say from a standpoint of being fair that I strongly believe, and I believe the district councilwoman even last meeting said that this could be a good addition. The planning and zoning committee unanimously said this would be a great development for the area. So I just would like to make sure that, you know, a variety of voices are considered in this decision. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Joe.
One other question, if I could.
Yes, sir.
As you've described this, and I'm looking at your drawings here and the comments from Chief Merriman. If this were residential and you proceeded with some sort of residential, the challenge, at least from these drawings here, is that you've got this encircled by this solid wall. So I don't see in your planning a tie-in to any existing roads that may be in the Delaney Cove area, which would then impact or reduce your obligations that you may have complying with our fire code regulations. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying, but I'd just like to also mention that to the west side, there's an egress waterway,
I
or
understand
excuse
the
me, a drainage ditch.
Right.
And to the north and to the east are homes.
Exactly. But all I'm saying is that if you visualize, at least that would be, and saying, look, is there a collaboration that's possible? And once again, working with the HOA, working with the developer of the Delaney Cove, is, gentlemen, I have an idea for some residential homes, but I don't want it just to be this little pocket right here. I want to access and I want to tie into roads that already exist, okay, on over here in these neighborhoods. And it may be that there's not egress then in this, but it's just there's no egress from the road on this side, right?
That's correct.
And it's just a connection this way. That's all I'm suggesting as you look at things down the road.
I just want to say, so I want to echo that. I think everybody appreciates that you're here. It's much easier to have these conversations when there's a representative who can actually speak knowledgeably. And it's also not easy to be up there when you know people don't like what you're saying. But I also want to say thank you to all the citizens that are here. I mean, I think this is exactly why we tabled it, was because it felt like this is a big change for a neighborhood, for several neighborhoods, for us to make this decision without seeing people that live in the neighborhood. So thank you for coming, all of you. You know, I just want to say something that Joe said really resonated for me, Mr. Hoppanimi, and that is that I think, you know, if we were to make a decision, you know, if we were to vote on this tonight, I know for me, it wouldn't sit right for me to say, yes, let's go ahead with this, because the only citizen involvement we've heard has been against it, right? And so I feel like as an elected person up here trying to represent, the only things I've heard are that. But for that reason, I feel like we should not go forward with a vote tonight, in my opinion, because I think that if you're a developer who, you know, is interested in truly doing something that enhances the community, you bought this piece of property, you clearly saw some potential in it. Somebody did within your group. Unless you want to open another ranch office branch there.
Done some research.
I think perhaps, and you know, I'm sort of stepping out of my box of knowledge here because I don't know how often this may or may not happen already, but you have some of the most invested HOAs, like and the most relevant ones here, right? And I would wager that they would love to talk to you and your group, and maybe there would be a manner of collaboration, maybe some mining of ideas for them around what they'd like to see. Because I can certainly add, you know, my voice to the echo of, I don't think there's anyone who's particularly captivated by the idea of a nail salon or a vape shop or, you know, anything like that in their neighborhood. We have a lot of those. And I think that is totally common amongst communities of our size. Like we all know what this happens. And because this property does, to the mayor's point, happen to be, we have the opportunity to have a say in it in a way that we don't in other properties. I think for you and your group, it could be a fairly remarkable opportunity to work with some of the people and hear about what they want, and then use that as overwhelming leverage for this council. Because if the people who live in the neighborhoods get to be a part, or at least give you feedback, and you come up with something that is financially viable for you, but also we can really rely on it actually enhancing the community, that would be very compelling for council. Because as it is, I think one of the hardest things whenever we're asked to zone change, and again, like Joe said, we don't receive the details until it's already passed through the chain, which I know you've done all the right things. You went through P&Z, you know, but with all respect to everyone who gives their time on the committees, they're also often, a lot of the jobs, particularly for P&Z, they have to think about the big picture, but they're also just making sure, is this person really playing ball? Like, are they doing the things they're supposed to do? And then they pass that up to us, and we have to have the conversation about the big picture. And I love, you know, I would wager that some of the people in the neighborhoods don't mind the idea of like a really nice doctor's office that would be right there, maybe, but we have no control over what would happen once we zone it. And then it's who will buy it, right? Who will buy into those spaces? And I think it is definitely, I think, a very understandable concern amongst the citizens that, you know, maybe it's a nice development, but who goes in there? And once we zone that, we don't have any control over it anymore. So all that said, I just want to come back to, I think I'm really grateful that you're here. And if you have any interest at all, I would highly encourage you to connect to the HOA presidents, because I think this council would be really invested in hearing what could come out of this, right? The reworking and what could work for the community and what could be right for your firm, you know, so that you don't feel like, well, great, so happy with my meadow, you know. But also I will say that if we could, I very much like what Joe said about if there's a way for the city to support some type of, I don't know how that would work with a commercial developer around creating that, I guess, a green space, but I have to say it. So thank you.
Okay.
And thank
very
you,
much.
everyone.
I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
I'm sorry. This is my district. I'm Councilwoman Kim Yancey. The unfortunate part is that if our residents had received their letters, then you would have known this. And they're saying that they did not receive the letters. And so if the letters had been received, then what that does is it lets you know that I've got some more work to do, right? And so we've got like 3 or 4 people, and then these are the people where the development touches, you know, they're 250 feet, 200 feet from them. So the purpose of that letter is to inform them so that they can say no. And then you go back to them and you win their support, because in order to get what you want, you have to convince them to see what they want. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And that's why you're here. And I do apologize for that, because if that protocol had been followed, then they would have known. How they found out was when it was on the agenda. But professionally, it should have been sent. And then you would have known. So I agree with Councilwoman Casey in that this is a beautiful synergy that you could have, because they're here, they're interested, and that is one of the fastest growing areas in our city. So we want to make sure that our residents are satisfied. And thank you so much for being here.
And I appreciate that comment. I just wanted to make a small clarification. We submitted an application and paid an application fee, and Kathleen Van Stavern told us that it was on their responsibility to send those letters out. And so I even spoke with Kathleen, and she said that the letters were all sent and that nobody responded. So I I mean, I guess that's not on.
Yeah, it's not on you.
Yeah.
It's not.
And that will be
That's fine.
followed up,
Yeah.
obviously.
Follow up
Yeah.
on that. So,
Okay.
but we apologize.
Did you want
for
to
that.
respond to that, Caesar?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things, Mayor. Mr. Habanini,
Hapanini.
I'm so sorry. I
No
struggle with
problem.
that. I'm sure that's happened for once or
A
twice.
few times.
Few times.
Just-
Is it Finnish? It seems
It is.
Finnish.
That's actually very impressive. I feel like most people ask me if I'm Greek or Hawaiian and
Lebanon.
yeah,
Well,
but yes.
It's Kevin.
No, it's Finnish.
Finish.
Yeah.
it's-
one thing just to say, that's been clear to all involved. The system has failed you. System has failed the actual residents.
Mhm.
And the only way to fix it is to take responsibility. And that's something that's got to be on us as to what may have transpired. And I think the best step to fix it is to come together to discuss these things. So in fairness to you and to the residents, and everybody's opinion can be voiced. I have no doubt but to believe that if someone said the letters were sent out, that they were, however, they were never received. Because clearly that's what transpired here. So wherever that mishap occurred or what happened, postal service, whatever may have happened, that didn't go out correctly. That will be determined. But in the meantime, what I'd like to do is to make sure that we all come together. So if it's okay, just as a point of, like to educate, if you do vote tonight and the item does not pass, then we're in a 6-month hiatus before we can move forward. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gus.
Depending on the nature of it not passing, yes, it would be 6
Yeah,
months
no.
before
So
you reply.
If you would allow us to table this and bring this back to you when we have that opportunity.
That's fine, but I don't want to gaslight you. And it's not, I felt a little gaslight in what we said. If the letters didn't go out, we didn't send them.
Yes, sir.
I don't care how it, you can say whatever else you want to say about it. And that's not what Caesar's saying. I'm not putting those words in his mouth, but I felt it. And I'm saying that's not what I'm saying. And I don't think that's what the rest of this council, we're taking accountability as representatives. If that did not happen, what we are saying and what I'm saying, and if the council objects, then they can object at this time. Caesar, I know what you meant. You're taking responsibility in your way. But what I'm saying is, I think you should look into whatever was said and what was done, and I think you should provide a full report to this council. I really think that should happen. We'll get to some answers for you and for our residents. And I think you're right. I think that if we do anything other than table, it would be a disservice to the HOAs, to the developer, and to the citizens who have apparently been blindsided by this. And so I will then, if there's no further discussion, entertain a motion to table.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something before?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I was gonna say.
Did you? Go ahead, Jerry.
We want to table this in the context of there's a possibility that this could be changed? That the zoning could be changed? Because likewise, I don't want him to hold out false hope. I'm ready to move on this.
And if I may, as far as a zoning change is concerned, it must go through P and Z.
Mhm.
And then that report is being presented to council, which has occurred in this case.
Mhm.
If we're now going to talk about a zone amending his application, would have to go through.
No,
P&Z
no,
again.
we are
Okay,
tabling, I'm encouraging us to table because we don't know if this process was followed. If the process was followed. And so before we vote on this item, I think it's important that we know exactly what happened with those 200 letters. So that's what I'm saying, Gus and Joe.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. And maybe we should say it's very it's mainly just about making sure we have all elements, all factors accounted for, present. I'm very glad that Kathleen is on vacation, but it is also, inconvenient for for conversation. She deserves vacation and all city staff do, but it is inconvenient. It would be nice to have her here so she could address. She has a long history of getting letters out, but it's obvious that it didn't work. And so I agree, we should.
Matt, just for
address.
clarity.
Yes. Joe.
If we table, this remains a pending item for us. Is that accurate?
That'd be correct.
So it's still an active action item that we continue to carry over, that we can vote on.
But we continue to carry it over, Joe, because we do not know if the process was followed.
No,
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Gotcha.
I just don't want it to, if no action is basically saying the deal's off the table, that's not what we're saying either, are we?
No, we're saying stop.
Saying
Let's make
pause.
sure that everything that was alleged to have happened did happen. That's all we want to do at this point. In fairness to the residents that did not get notification allegedly, and in fairness to the developer that believed that he went through the proper process. I think it's fair on both ends for us to do it that way. And Joe, I know that.
And
you
to
know, you're
allow,
not saying it's
and
not.
to allow the staff to be here too, to
Sure.
account for it.
Okay. No, I agree.
And the other thing it is a great thing for Kathleen to be on vacation, and I'm not suggesting that she should have stopped her vacation. What I am suggesting is that this is not a one-person department. And so there should have been another person who could have spoke to maybe some of these issues about the 200 letters in a way that you apparently cannot. And I appreciate you stepping up. That's your role. We appreciate it. But I'm simply making the comment that if there is an issue, in my opinion, of this level of community interest, we need to have those departments represent themselves and our city in those times of intense discussion. We don't need to not be here. That's all I'm saying. And if there's no further discussion, we need to move toward
She had to think they.
we certainly can't. We did talk about Delaney Cove. Yes, we did. Thank you for that. We did talk about hearing from Delaney Cove and Sawgrass Ginger. It seems like you're passing the baton, and that's fine.
Just dying to get off of that chair.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I saw y'all making that agreement, but then it didn't register.
I'm not really dying, but my name's Tanisha again, and
Yes,
as
ma'am.
Director of Construction, Mr. Habanini, I apologize, said something that was really alarming to me. So when they purchased the property, they did not purchase with commercial intent. They purchased it with residential. But after going through codes and regulations, he found that it was more feasible to do it as a commercial instead of residential. Whereas those same codes and obligations are the same as residential as well. So when you talked about your turn radius and your fire code, I do this all day long. What I'm saying is, if you can't meet the fire code because of certain lot sizes, and we do that for economical reasons. So your lot sizes have to be economically sufficient for you. But in the residential, you're still gonna have to meet fire codes. Your fire truck is still gonna have to be able to make the turn radius. You're still gonna have to have fire hydrants. So if we move forward with this developmental property as a community, no, we do not want daycares and nail salons and doctor's offices. That does not benefit you said enhance our community. It doesn't enhance us at all. It does it brings no value to my property to put a childcare center, a nail salon, or even a doctor's office there. Now, if you want to enhance our community, bring us something that we can use. How about a restaurant, maybe a steakhouse? If you want to increase our salon, if you want to increase our community, but bring us something that's more feasible to us, or townhomes. That was a nice suggestion. But if it's going to move forward, do something that will enhance us and not something that would devalue our properties.
Thank you.
Get her name for a future.
That was
award.
I think we have a name for the record. Tanisha, you were representing Saltgrass, Delaney Cove. You let her take your Saltgrass. Corey, did you need the rest of Saltgrass time? Well said. Okay. She did. Good deal. If there's nothing further, we will then entertain a motion.
I move that we table this item.
The second,
So moved.
there is no discussion on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9, resolutions. 9-1, resolution number letter R-2023-0024. Approving a maintenance agreement with Android Construction for emergency repairs to water and sanitary sewer pipelines on an as-needed basis. Caesar.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. As Rick steps forward here, this item is something that we've been working on for quite a while to try to expedite how we take care of our leaks, to become more efficient and more fiscally responsible. Continue using some of the same vendors we have, but hopefully at a better rate. Rick?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council. As you know, we use contractors periodically to perform work that either we do not have time to do or maybe beyond our expertise. Currently, we've used contractors that submitted us maintenance agreements. That's in your packets. Ramrod Utilities, Branch Construction, Android Construction. Android's been our go-to contractor, really. He's been very dependable. We've always been able to get them out weekends, holidays, whatever the time might be. Currently, their price is $3,200 a day. They came to us about reducing that to $2,400 a day with this maintenance agreement. There's really no contract to be signed. It's a maintenance agreement, basically, that we would call them first. If they're available, they would respond. If they're not available, we're free to call in another contractor if we need to. There's no fixed dollar amount. We spend about $150,000 to $200,000 a year on contractor services for waterline work. But generally, most of that work is done on an emergency basis. We call them when we need them. And this would allow us to at least lower our daily price by $800 a day. We think it's a good offer, and we recommend approval.
Very good. Any questions for Rick?
I do, Rick. Lowering this daily price is that when these breaks that have occurred on 45 with the tech stock construction, where they're not responding and we have to respond, that's part of what this gentleman or this company does, correct?
That has been, especially in the past, sir. Those are dwindled down because most of that work is done now, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But in the
so
past,
going up toward Omega
water's
Bay
under
and
the-
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we send out Android, I think it's called Android.
Android, yes, sir.
Construction out there. And I have been told that we seek reimbursement from TxDOT when it's a TxDOT problem.
We have, sir.
We have, okay. But are we adding on an administrative fee when these things occur? We're not giving them our price when we seek reimbursement.
So that's a long answer. I'll try to make it short.
You don't have to answer it. I'm just interjecting that I would like to.
We have not been.
Okay.
The answer, the simple question is no. And
well, we need to be a bit smarter in my opinion.
We've approached TxDOT, and now that you brought that up, let me just clarify a little bit, and city attorney can assist. We've all met with TxDOT. Right now, TxDOT was moving our pipelines. In many cases, due to one reason or another, those pipelines failed. They broke. Some of them were hits. Some of them were just stress on pipes. To date, I don't believe TxDOT has reimbursed the city anything on these waterline hits.
They have not.
No. And I wouldn't want that to be misled to you. And we've approached them, but basically in the conversation, they have not reimbursed the city for any of those hits.
Okay. Future agenda.
Yes, sir. For in the for the good of the order.
Yes.
Remember, yeah. Thanks, Joe. Any other questions for Rick?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-2.
Thank you, Rick.
Resolution number letter R-2023-0025, issuing a purchase order to Attico Engineering to complete a utility impact fee analysis for water and sewer development impact fee. Caesar?
The last time we, thank you, Mayor. The last time that we looked at impact fees was 2018. Usual custom is to look at these every 2 years, especially with the growth of the city. It's now been 5 since we last conducted this study. In order to keep in line with the growth of the city and to keep in line with the improvements that we continue to have to make, it is prudent, and I recommend that we look at this item seriously for consideration. So we can look at updated impact fees for some of this infrastructure development that the city needs.
Council, any questions?
Did Adeco do the last impact fee? Is that why?
No, sir, I think it was ARC. Yes.
So you're issuing a purchase order, but it's under our fiscal requirement to go out for bids?
No, we're allowed to, city council is allowed to use our city engineer to do any work that you deem. We have a contract with Adeco to do work for the city.
And if I may, impact fee analysis is a professional service. It must be done by a professional engineer, of which Adeco is, so it's not subject to the same competitive bid requirements.
Okay. Okay.
Any further questions? Where we at, Kira, on a motion or on a vote? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? Here none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? City manager report, submitted report to update council and the community on the standard operations of the city. Report can be acknowledged as a whole or discussed at the pleasure of council. Caesar, do you want to go item by item? Give us a brief synopsis.
Certainly, I can go very briefly. First item is our procurement cards. We have had a growing problem with our procurement cards. A lot of us have experienced through city staff as well as through council. It is a growing problem and we're not the only ones facing it. It is time for us to look for a more efficient solution. And we're seeking, essentially letting you know that that's the process that we would intend to follow. And we would like to bring back formal bid documents to do so, hopefully as early as the next meeting. Just to update you guys, because it is an ongoing issue and it's gotten progressively worse quickly.
Thank you.
Next item is our approach to response to the shooting that took place at Circle T on April 18th, on the last Tuesday. I'd like to commend our police department, those members that may still be present. Shooting took place at approximately 10:03 a.m. And I'm happy to report that almost between 48 and 60 hours after a apprehension was made. Evidence, without getting too deep into it, shows that we have captured all those that were involved. And we're working to bring the necessary folks to justice.
No injuries.
No injuries have been reported. No injuries have been reported by either side.
Okay.
It was very peaceful apprehension without getting into too many details.
But the shooting, there were no injuries.
No injuries to the shooting, no injuries
Okay.
to the apprehension, none of the above.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The response to the police department audit that took place now going on 90 days ago, wanted to bring light to where the progress that we've made. That was included in your package thus far. We are taking a lot of great strides. We've challenged all of our departments, not just our police department, but police, fire, and public works to commence our accreditation process. For each one of the departments, it's about a 3 to 5 year process, as many as 5 for some, as little as 3. I am happy to report that both fire and PD have taken that lead in that charge and are working as fast as possible. One of the biggest backlogs that we've had that was mentioned throughout the audit was the condition of our evidence room and condition of just how we're dealing with certain things. And I'm happy to report that the district attorney's office has told us that we need to slow down, that they've gotten quite a few requests lately. So we are indeed going to continue pushing forward. This is a very brief synopsis updated to where we are thus far. The draft of the plan is included that has a chief's notes on it, as well as the plan that includes our steps toward accreditation. For PD itself, we're hoping to reach accreditation by 2026.
Okay.
And more details to come, obviously. I'll continue keeping the entire council updated on that.
Okay.
Next item that I'd like to share is the Vision 2050 plan. And this is one that's going to take, obviously, the entire community. This will be a process that is going to take a lot of input to make sure that we identify what the future of Lamarque will be. We've gone through a lot of changes probably in everybody's lifespan here. And the amount of changes that we'll probably see in the next 25 years is going to be very drastic. We want to take a very methodical approach as to how we do this, and really set course as to what we're going to do moving forward. So some of the items we've already started addressing with staff are included in your memo. A lot of those items include how we're going to, even down to the point of what we're going to do about paper, about what we're going to do about broadband for the community. We still have a lot of items to add as far as the economic development side. We know that's going to play a major role. Infrastructure is going to play a major role, and technology. So those forces, along with driving what our basic principles are and always are, which are customer service and our public safety. So we need to make sure we maintain or continue to improve in those while also increasing in those others. A lot of research has already taken place, and more will continue. This is a very brief list of the things that we're looking at doing. The environmental side, the conservation side is one that we really need to look into. As little as 7 years ago, 1 out of 700 cars was destined to be a electric vehicle. We're projected by next year for 1 out of every 7 to be a electric vehicle. Something we really need to look into to be prepared for that change. So environmental changes will also play a very large role as we, as an entire region, take a very large approach towards being more environmentally conscious. So more meetings will be announced as far as what we're going to do, obviously workshops and so forth to get everybody's input. The decision whether we're going to do the entire thing in-house or outsource the entire thing or mixed use. These plans take a lot of time. However, we are going to present to you the most efficient manner and to get those done. So we're excited for that brief synopsis to share with the community of what we have so far, but we would like to also get more input as to how we can do some of those things.
Absolutely. Council, we have any questions about the city manager's report?
Mr. Manager, and I've said this to you on more than one occasion. I think I mentioned it council as well too, if we could get a consensus about it. Our webpage is not user friendly. I've said that it doesn't clearly say, click, here's our conceptual park plan, right? It's just a click there. And unless you've updated that since the last time, it's there now. All right. So do me a favor on your in the future at some point. I heard back that
Joe, is this where you're at?
on his documents, on his report here. The vision.
You're on vision?
The vision.
And you
This is all, I'm assuming the vision is all these different
things under
plans,
here,
correct?
and you're referring to documents under.
Documents.
Okay,
correct,
proceed.
Documents.
Go ahead.
That's,
Go ahead.
and so, and you've got all these documents here, but I just want to make sure that we're not missing out on those that are most crucial, like the comprehensive plan.
Gotcha.
And our park plan and making sure that they're there. And if we updated the webpage, then I'm the one that needs to go to it again. But but that's my point. I think it was brought up earlier as well too. Both James and Cassandra mentioned that at our meeting. Okay.
I have 2 questions. The first one is on the procurement card. Susie's letter, it seemed like she's asking for direction, right? So, I mean, when you just went through it with us, I appreciate that you're trying to make sure we don't spend an hour on each of these links. But if y'all need direction, I want us to talk about it a little bit longer. So basically, procurement card, you're talking about like credit cards. And
Cards, procurement cards.
And basically what Susie is recommending and what y'all are recommending together is we need to bid out for a new system because what we have right now is just not functional.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And barring nothing against it, we intend to bring that hopefully at the very next meeting.
Okay. Got it. So it will be on an agenda upcoming.
Yes,
this was you
absolutely.
giving. Got it. I'm
It
sorry.
was just an update because it has been a increasingly bad
Groovy.
problem.
Okay. My apologies. I didn't. And then the Vision 2050 link, every time I click on it, it's just this 2-page document about the PD. Is it supposed to be something else?
Should be several documents.
It's just 2 pages. He's about to shoot him.
It's it seems like it's a response to it's the same as the approaches to crime document. Looks like the links got got a little messed up, so I can't really speak to your. I'm excited. I was excited to see the vision thing on there when I looked at it yesterday. I should have reached out and told you that I saw that the link wasn't right, but to be continued then. I can't wait to look at it. I'm excited about that. Oh, wait, I will.
I know, that's all.
No, we're gonna.
I'm excited for this council to look at it. And I will engage as a citizen.
Oh, like good.
And if I can also, there is a document there. Not only do you have the PD attachment that's shown for their vision, Courts is one that's submitted. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened to the memo, unless it got mixed up, but there's also a strategic planning in a small communities draft. It's a 47-page document as a reference for small communities, specifically for my CMA. So
I was gonna say, was that from your CMA? I assumed it was.
Yeah, I've loved it. I'm reading it.
Thank you.
Cool.
Susan, I'm going to ask you officially, for the good of the order, to engage EDC and to see if they are willing to fund outside consultation to help navigate this Lamarque 2050 vision process. It's going to take more than your staff, more than any man hours that you could provide. And we're going to need, I would think, a third party to engage our community so that we can really understand where we go from here. So if you can have the EDC be at, well, I'll do it officially. It's coming. Any further questions? Let's move past that to item 11.1, investment quarterly report, discussion possible action regarding accepting the quarterly investment reports for the first quarter of 2023. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any questions for Susie? She is with us via Zoom. Welcome, Susie. Does anyone
Good evening, everybody. I'm just here to entertain if there's any questions to the investment quarterly reports.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions for Susie tonight?
No question, but my comment is continue this. We're getting caught up. That's, I've expressed that to you. So thank you. And
Thank you. Yes, sir. We're trying.
Good deal. Let's move right past it. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I think we already
We already
did.
had a motion.
We already did.
I'm so eager to. Well,
wants to
I
make
will
sure
call
you
for the
do.
vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Susie. 11.2, Cinco de Mayo event fee waiver request, discussion, possible action regarding consideration of a fee waiver request by LULAC for a Cinco de Mayo event at Highland Bayou Park. Caesar?
Yes, in numerous meetings with Ms. Mary Lamonis, this item did come before the Parks Board for the waiver of the actual usage fee at the park. In addition to that, they did support that waiver, and that's why that portion came up. And that's discussed in the memo by Rick. But also to that extent, in conversations as she sent to you in the proposal that she originally brought a few months back, she had other things that she would like to formally consider at this time, along with the waiver. And those are in the memo that I drafted there for you. The brief synopsis, some of those obviously include the fact that they're having a 2-day event, May 5th and 6th. They have received the waiver recommendation to you from the Parks Board for the rental fee and the deposit. They're requesting a waiver of the special event form, which I have here. The process is complete and it's waiting my signature. So depending on how everybody agrees here. She's also requested a few other items, promotional assistance through the city's website and social media. She's asked that as a sponsor or in any fashion that she would like to use our logo on her marketing. She would like for barricades, if they're available from the city's inventory, to help with safety. She's requested trash cans, cardboard box to be requested through waste management. Those that just kind of fold and come apart. Waiver of city vendor fees. Each vendor that would be out there would be required to have that fee. Participation from police department and fire at the event as community involvement, not to be confused with the fact that they would be coming forward to already provide services as needed for the event, for the special event purposes. But she was asking more of touch a truck or them just coming forward to having a booth, putting information out to community, more for community involvement. if they were available.
As while they were on duty, or
No,
as in addition to those that are on duty?
in addition to
Okay.
those that be on duty, yes. And then also lastly, which she brought to you just as a summary, consideration on next year's budget and for subsequent events and years, including her holiday event that is held, the a toy event, and the annual back to school event that LULAC also hosts, all within the city of Lamarck.
Okay.
And that is we have.
Thank you. Council, first thoughts?
I'm confused. I'm so confused. I guess the waiver, the waiver. We don't have any policy in general. We've waived it. I'm going to go back. We've waived that for other nonprofits, correct? Right?
Yes.
So this is not anything exceptional there. We've waived that. But have we a policy in place that's been brought to this council where there is that waiver that occurs when we have nonprofit groups?
As of, to my knowledge and my time here, we're working on a waiver fee request form to be completed. I under my purview, I don't have the authority, so all those waivers come to you. So that's what we're bringing forward. We're similar how we did with the street naming and policy. We're gathering some information on that before we bring it for you. But this is one similar to others that apparently have been done in the past as far as fee waiver.
Or my suggestion that in the future that might be something that we might consider just in general. Galveston under Mayor Jaworski here did a very good job with regard to going ahead and permitting nonprofit groups to reserve and utilize the Galveston Convention Center without a payment of a fee for one time per year. So I think that that's something council should take a look at. Now I got confused after that on the waiver of these other items. What's the dollar amount?
Certainly. Most of them are not actual dollar amounts, if you will. If we're going down the list, the promotional assistance and the social media, it would be in conjunction with what we're already doing. So it would just, they're asking, can they use our logo essentially? Because there's no formal ask or process in place as part of the policy. As far as the social media, they would ask us to share information that they put out. So there's no monetary value we could say that we have, hey, this is what that cost would be. The few that we do have a monetary value for, that we have a concrete one, is for the actual special event permit. The others that are on this list do not have a monetary value.
And what is that amount for what's the special event permit fee?
$250.
So every vendor out there would.
No.
That's
So
the special
that's a
event
special
fee.
event to host a special event. Anytime anybody hosts a special event within the city, there's a $250 fee. In addition to that, each vendor that's out there then has a vendor fee.
What is that?
$25. It starts at 25 depending on if it's craft or food.
And that's both for nonprofits and for profits.
Correct. And these vendors are also out there selling food are actually for-profit vendors. And also I'd like to note that as of time of earlier today, this branch of LULAC is not a nonprofit. They are not for-profit. They've applied for the nonprofit status.
They're actually, I asked that question for clarification. They're a nonprofit registered in Texas. They just don't have their
Their chapter.
501c3 at the Fed side. So they're registered as a Texas nonprofit on that side. The other thing is, and I speak to this is, and this, I'm going to pick up what Councilmember Mitchnich, because I've said this once again to council. If council is willing to work with me to develop a hot tax ordinance on these short-term rentals, right? The short-term rentals, which we're seeing more of, that could be a source of funding to support these sort of events, just like Galveston does on with their hot tax over there on their the hot tax that's collected off of short-term rentals. I should clarify and permit us to go forth on that.
So I sorry, I lost my page. I have to say, while I'm definitely in favor of us supporting this event, I mean, you know, I have given some of my city council allotted budget to support LULAC's other events because they have a history of putting together good community events. I want us to support those. I would like for us to continue. I do have some pause though at this full request, because the way it reads to me is that we as a city, without any current policy about how we will treat nonprofits and having some precedents for uniformity, is basically sponsoring this event. Like, I mean, essentially, if they're asking to use our city logo and there's no, I don't recall, I remember several years ago, we approved like a branding usage, I believe, with Colleen. I would expect, like, if we were to essentially, I think, and I mean, this is all sounding very nefarious. I don't mean for it to sound nefarious. I think it's great. But, you know, if we're going to waive all the fees and provide trash cans, provide the barricades, I mean, that is a considerable expense on behalf of the city. And I do remember during our discussions around what holidays we would approve in the city budget, we had talked about how there needed to be at some point in this council's trajectory, a moment where we talked about how we would treat the putting on of holiday events, because we talked a lot about how we as a city did not really have the bandwidth, the staff bandwidth to really execute these things. And so we might consider partnerships with nonprofits that can put these things on, or private enterprises. And I think this is a good opportunity for that, but it is really squeezing out for me the fact that we don't have any kind of policy precedent. And I think we'd have a hard time necessarily talking to someone else who comes and says, well, why didn't you approve any of my things? I wanted to have X event and I want you to give me cardboard boxes for trash. I want this, I want that. I don't think that means we can't find a way to work together and support this event. I just do think that should be part of our discussion, especially because are they currently on the updated list of nonprofits? Because if they're not, then they're not a nonprofit. You know what I mean? It's kind of a yes or no situation that if we want to be able to tell the public, yes, they're a nonprofit, you can find it on the website.
When you say that, are you meaning the 501c3 designation?
Yes. Do they have an IRS exemption letter? Do they have their designation? Yes. And again, all that said, I want this event to go on. I want us to support it, but I do think we should consider that, because I think if they create flyers that have the city logos on them and all of these things are provided, it is all intents and purposes a city event. You know, I mean, at least a co-sponsored city event, which maybe is a great thing. I don't know. I'm starting to flail here, so you guys, help me out.
No,
What do you think?
I think essentially it would be a city event. I think that the city partnered to an extent on last year with Ms. Lamonis and with LULAC. But you bring a great point. Our city isn't really big enough to be in the event business.
Mhm.
So we have to have partners. And I assume LULAC will be a great partner. But the bigger point is, and the deeper question is, what sorts of events would this city be willing to sponsor? And that opens a door that we need to understand. If it's LULAC or if it's Cinco de Mayo, then it can be anything and any event, and we would have to treat them in the same fashion, or multiple events. We could have 100 events tomorrow, right, and not have enough in-kind investment to be able to put those off.
Yeah.
So the long term, I think that we probably need to have a committee, or even see if the Parks Board would take this up, so that we will have a layer, I think, Casey, a layer of the community that would be able to answer. These are those events that we are interested in being a part of, so that it would be driven by the community. So that once it gets to council, it's a simple matter of following the criteria.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I think that, we would be in putting ourselves in tremendous liability as a city. If we start saying who and what can, be partnered with. That doesn't help us tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Tonight, we need to decide how we want to, if at all, partner with LULAC. And so that's the question. Kim, did you want to add to?
Well, I was just looking at the agenda form where it says that the fee waiver for the pavilion has already been approved by you and Gus already.
It was recommended by the
Recommended,
Parks Board.
okay.
We don't have that authority. That's got to come to council for approval.
Okay.
It went first to Parks Board. And then after it went to Parks Board, then the next step is for it to come to you with their recommendation
So the park board, according to this, they have already approved the waiver.
for the rental of the pavilion.
Waiver, right, okay.
So that's
I
the
don't-
only associated park fee.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I don't have a problem waiving that, the rental fee. I'm good with that. It's just all the other things. I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, that may be a little bit too much until we get a policy in place.
I'm tempted to agree. I think that if we were to think about what this might open the door to for other organizations that might very well be wonderful partners, but if we consider what we do for them, we should be able to do for others. I'm fully on board with waiving the city required permits, and but I think that it should be definitely up for very soon consideration. How are we going to go about deciding what these parameters are?
And these are growing pains. This is a good
It's
ask.
wonderful. And I hope Miss Limones, when she hears all of this, doesn't go like, thanks for the money for the backpacks and then turning your back on me on this one. But it really is, I think we have to try to
Get a policy.
meet in the middle a little bit. Because, I think when we start, because all these other things, they do cost money. That is staff time. That is actual product. That's a lot. And particularly for me, the one I find to be really sensitive is the use of the branding, because we have to be very precious with how we let other people slap a city logo on things. And I'm not saying that they would do it in any kind of disrespectful way, but again, it's something we have to take care of. Okay.
Well, and just to interject there, I'm not in favor of them using the logo because they don't have the 501c3 status.
Mhm.
There might be a Texas nonprofit, but for the logo, I think that's a requirement that I would have for any group if we're going to join.
Yeah.
But I agree with the fee waiver, and then let's work on this other part, the rest of these items.
Okay. Well, Kira, did we have a motion or no?
I'll move that we.
The second?
I have a question, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Which
What's the motion?
fees are being
The-
waived?
The pavilion,
The special event fee, that would be the 250, right?
The special event fee would be the 250 and the 550 is the
Right.
park usage.
Both of those.
both of
Special
those.
event fee and the park pavilion rental fee.
Yeah.
What about the vendor fee? Yes or no?
No, I'm
I
not
don't-
voting for that. I'm voting.
Special event fee and park fee. Very good. And Joe, you made the motion,
Yes, sir.
special event
And
and park.
part, yes.
Did you second, Casey?
Kim.
Okay, Kim second.
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 11.3.
Mayor, I'm so sorry. If I may, also to let you know on the discussion we had a few meetings ago, we are developing an RFP process for these, working with Gus and staff just for events and programs in general.
Sure.
Because the phone has started ringing. Hey, we want to bring this to Lamarck and want to do this here so we can have an actual formal process. So we are working on bringing something together.
Thanks for that, Susan. 11.3, Circles X. Discussion possible action regarding information involving certain producers and midstream providers of natural gas resulting in economic harm to end users, including governmental entities and proposed litigation thereof, and consider for approval, instruction to the city manager to make assignment on the city of Lamarck, Texas behalf to Circles X LLC, Caesar.
Yes, Mayor, Council, we have some representatives here from Circles X that have a brief discussion or presentation I want to do to have on this item. If I could ask them to come forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we say hello to the honorable former mayor of city of Galveston, Joe Jaworski, and welcome Mr. Jaworski, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Council, good evening. Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. This is an opportunity that I brought to Mayor Bell very briefly, calling him on the phone, and he appropriately put me in touch with city staff. It is important for Lamarque to be part of this, I truly believe. 2 years ago, when Winter Storm Uri hit, there was a cataclysmic loss of electricity across the state. Many of you I know have stories that you could share. And this is an opportunity for individuals as well. But we are here asking the city of Lamarque to join an effort to set right what was done so wrong. Briefly, there is a lawsuit on file in Harris County that over 300,000 individual claimants, cities, counties, hospitals, businesses, grandmothers, grandfathers, are all a part of because they assigned their claim to the lead plaintiff, Circles X. Now, my colleague Paul Moore will carry the balance of this in just a moment. He is from Circles X. My request to the city of Lamarque is to assign your very substantial interest and become part of this lawsuit for two reasons. One, clearly there would have been some property damage, uninsured, that the city experienced, but that's just the beginning of it. I would leave that to the staff, and anything that wasn't insured, anything up to the deductible, anything that exceeded coverage, that could be claimed. But more importantly is the charges that the city of Lamarque will be paying for the next 30 years. Because the real story here is that during Winter Storm Uri, $55 billion worth of wealth was passed from ratepayers to natural gas producers. Because in long short, we were Enron. And the petition that is on file in Harris County, all 161 pages of it, very specifically alleges facts that show exactly what happened. And of course, City Attorney Neville has that petition. I'm going to hand it over to Paul Moore, but our request is that the city of Lamarque take action now and become part of this effort. And so whether it's tonight with this council here or in 2 weeks with another council, our request is that you approve the city attorney to pass and negotiate an assignment, and for the city manager or the mayor to execute that assignment so that you can be part of this important historical substantial effort for your benefit. Paul.
Thank you, Joe. So you remember February 21 was the 4 coldest days recorded in Texas state history from the 13th to the 17th. That storm cost $200 billion of damage to Texas. The energy companies, now there are 4,100 energy companies in the state of Texas. We've done analysis. We identified 230 bad actors. We filed the petition in Harris County on February 9th, identifying 92 of those bad actors. Those bad actors made $55 billion. We are seeking $25 billion of disgorgement. As Joe said, we've got several 100,000 claims of various sizes. We have gone to all the major metropolitan areas over the last 2 years. We are tolling on the residential claims until May 31st. The judge has given us that window past February 12th. So we'd love to reach out to the nearly 20,000 residents of Lamarque, but we're here to pitch to city council, as we've been doing this across the state, getting councils and municipalities of various sizes and geographic representation around the state. Our models indicate that you were hit very hard. As much as 95% of Lamarque was damaged. Based on our models that we have a 20-year history of over 172 patents. The majority of those are in energy procurement and energy monitoring. Our data is very granular down to the wellhead. We know who did what and what they did with the gas. It's a simple hide the gas. They've injected into the storage facilities. They moved it to the interstate from the intrastate, and they disobeyed 2 of Governor Abbott's executive orders. On February 12th, he said all gas is to be supplied to the market. On February 18th, after the storm, he said no gas is to leave the intrastate pipes on the interstate market or for export and LNG. Every one of those tortfeasors in that petition violated both of those orders. We ask for no financial commitment. If you're uncomfortable at any point during the process, you can pull your assignment. But it's a very straightforward process. The labor would be identifying with the city manager what losses actually happened over time. You had talked about the pipe damage. You're looking at putting new pipes in. You had pipes burst all over the city.
But to reiterate, the other side of this loss is the exorbitant fees that the city of Lamarque, that Paul, that you will pay for the next 30 years, because as you know, most electricity is created in conversion plants across the state that are fed by natural gas feedstock. When that feedstock is unavailable, whether intentionally or not, and the price reaches an apex, and during this crisis, electricity, as you know, ceased to be in so many markets. When it was time to get that natural gas to pump these conversion plants back online, the price was at a historical high. 55 billion created. Who paid that? The wholesale and the retail electrical providers. They didn't have that kind of money to satisfy that debt. So they went to the state of Texas requesting securitization rights. And so just like the way the city of Lamarque and the city of Galveston go out to bonding companies and pay for road and street and sewer repair, so too our electrical providers went to JP Morgan Chase City and other financial institutions to satisfy that debt. How do they pay that back? Through our rates for the next 30 years, through the city of Lamarque's rates. So you have a claim. It is going to be substantial because all of the claims are substantial. And that's our request, that you do something about it.
Any further questions?
I do. I heard you mention individuals can participate in this
Yes,
as well.
yes.
How does that, how do you do that?
The website's THTRF.com.
THT.
Texans Helping Texans Recovery Fund. THTRF.com.
Okay.
I would certainly give materials to you.
And so it's almost, this is, your group is like a specialist in
We're data specialists, yes.
data. So in other words, you somehow have some proprietary monitoring software that can identify.
Yes, yes. Our founder is a former Enron trader, one of the good guys, not one of the bad guys.
Okay.
He spent 10 years identifying with the team, identifying all the pipeline markers around the country, labeling them. He actually sold that data to a select group of energy companies. He stopped doing that in December 2018. But he kept the servers running. Of course, it's 60,000 points of data every 3 minutes. There are several examples of the data in the petition.
And Gus, how does this impact? I think didn't we table it, a utility increase of some sort from the gas company?
Yes, that was, and we're gonna bring it back to y'all, but that was something different. That was a DCRF fee that the city has jurisdiction over under a separate statute.
Okay.
And that matter was pending at the PUC.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Any further questions?
Thank
Okay,
you.
we are going to, I assume, Gus, we're gonna have more discussion about this in executive session.
We can, if council has any questions for me
So we
specifically
don't
on that.
necessarily have to go in executive session.
We do not.
Wow, you just made my day.
If y'all have specific questions for me on the legal aspect, we can have those in executive session. If you just want to make a motion, what I would ask is that the motion be to authorize city staff to work with them on what the assignment will be, and bring that back to y'all so that y'all can, I mean, we have an assignment document, but we got it on Friday, so allow everyone some time to look at that and look at do some initial number crunching.
So,
I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
I second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Item 11.4, council residency. Discussion regarding council residency requirements in the city of Lamarck, Texas concerning District C. On last meeting, there was a complaint made by one of our citizens about the status of the council District C representative. And so I asked Gus to basically look into all of those claims and the law. And so we are going to, in open session, hear from Gus tonight as it relates to those issues that have been circulating in our community about District C.
Absolutely, Mayor. And I would begin this, I would say that as I begin, I'm aware of certain facts that are in the public sphere, but things that are on Facebook, I'm not aware of. I don't.
Sure.
So. But to start with, the Lamarck Charter Agreement sets out the general requirements for the council members. It says in part, council members shall be qualified voters of the state of Texas, hold no other public office, be and have been a resident of the city or of an annexed area for at least 1 year immediately preceding the election. A council member shall immediately cease to hold office if he shall cease to possess any of these qualifications, be convicted of a felony, or is otherwise provided by the charter. The charter agreement in Lamarck is silent as to the definition of residency, which is not uncommon. So to come up to find the definition of residency, what we have to do is go to the Texas Election Code, which is going to control over any provisions to the contrary in the city charter and serves to supplement when the city charter is silent, such as with issues dealing with the definition of residency. So Chapter 1 of the Texas Election Code defines a resident to mean, or residence to mean a domicile. That is one's home or fixed place of habitation to which one intends to return after any temporary absence. So the question is, what is a temporary absence? Well, for that, we have to go to Chapter 141 of the Texas Election Code that sets out that a temporary absence is an absence that occurs when someone is absent from the state but has an intent to return and has made a reasonable and substantive attempt to effectuate that intent and has a legal ability to return to the residence. So now that we know what a residence means and what temporary absence means, we can look at the facts as they are known to me today. I understand that sometime years ago, Councilmember Carlson established his residency in the city of Lamarck, Texas, and was elected to city council. I believe he lives in Delaney Cove. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. The important part is his residency was established in the city of Lamarck, Texas. I now understand he's taken a job as fire chief in Oregon. I believe his first day was Monday. I believe he's on a probationary hire there. But regardless, he is temporarily absent from the city of Lamarck, Texas. Things that indicate his temporary absence. His family still lives in Lamarck, Texas. His wife and children and minor children live here. He, in fact, intends to return to see them while he is still employed in Oregon. He also has a residential homestead exemption on file with the Galveston Central Appraisal District, indicating that his residential homestead is in Lamarck, Texas. I also understand that he is still registered to vote in Lamarck, Texas, saying that his residency is here. I also believe, he also, as I said, that address, he still owns that home and has the absolute ability to return to it at his leisure, essentially. Given all of that, I believe it's very likely a court would conclude that he not only is he a resident, but his absence is only temporary. He has made and continues to make. He has the ability to return and will in fact return throughout his time as fire chief. It should also be noted that courts generally have said that once somebody says what their residency is and they establish their residency, it is on the burden of proof then shifts to the contestant in an election contest or such to prove that it is in fact not your residence. And given the facts that have been shown to me, that are known to me, I understand that the council member for District C still is a resident of the city of Lamarck. So if council has any questions, I'm happy to listen to them and answer them as I may.
Sure. Any questions for Gus?
I do.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Surprised. Gus, you told me at last meeting and that ultimately the decision of residency lies with this council. Is that accurate? For the charter?
So under the charter, the council is deemed to be the arbiter of the questions regarding the qualifications of its members, subject to review by the courts.
Subject to review by the courts. Okay. Well, and this is only a discussion item. There's not possible action. So if it were possible action, I personally am very both disturbed and annoyed by this, because my standard, regardless of the courts and the law, my standard comes down to me, right? If I were in this situation, and I could be, I have purposely not taken deployments to California, to Alabama, to Tennessee, because for one reason, because it would take me out of this community for an extended period of time. And I don't feel that that's right for the individuals that I represent. I can only, in those instances, I have to focus on that task at hand. And many times I'm there working basically 12 hours to 14-hour shifts. And something similar to what I'm sure the chief is going to be doing in his new community. So I'm just saying this, if it's me, I would be stepping down. You go do your work over there. But I'm expressing myself, and that's, if this were a vote before or an action item, I would be making that motion, and it may die for lack of a second, but I need to do what I believe is right on my case. That's all I have in there.
Very good. Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, so we are just having discussion. But Gus, did I understand, am I right if how I understood what you were saying is that we could, as a, well, the options as they are on the table really are Councilman Carlson could choose to resign of his own accord, or he could choose to not resign and say that he would like to remain on this council until his term would end naturally, or that he intends to, and that is what he has said. I believe
That's what I understand he has said.
I mean, I'm only basing that on what he said at our last meeting.
Yes.
Same for you? Okay.
And the fact, yes.
Okay. And so if Michael chooses to not resign and wants and believes that he can serve on council faithfully while living in Oregon and traveling back and forth, then we are faced with a decision to make at some point, right? About whether we let that be and we let the public respond in whatever way they choose to respond, which could be recall, and which we were told that one has been filed, and whatever the outcome may be, or we can choose to call for his resignation
Council could choose to call for his resignation. If that is ultimate, yes.
Okay, that is an
something-
option. We
that
could
is
call
an
for his
option.
resignation. We could call for a vote to remove him from council. Is that what I also read in the charter? We've never had to face this, so I'm
Sure.
not.
So if council is going to decide, if council wanted to go that route, council would have, and council does have the ability to essentially have a mini trial, where the decision that would be made is the decision regarding council member Michael, or any council member, but in this case, District C's residency. That there would likely need to be evidence put on of that. Somebody would have to do that. I would likely be conflicted out
Sure.
given the fact that I am the city attorney and,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, have one of 5 bosses.
Yeah.
But if that is something the council wants to do, I can absolutely have somebody ready to go to do
Okay.
that.
Okay. And then if we go down the path of we have effectively removed Councilman Carlson from his position, he could choose to enter into litigation. He could sue the council. And everything you sort of laid out at the front was what you believe to be what would be the most likely way a court would interpret what has happened so far.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I do have to say, oh, I'm sorry. Let me ask one more question. Forgive me. So if Michael, and Michael, when you listen to this, I really wish you were here. I hate talking about you. Like, I hate talking about you without you here. But how do I say this? If he were to be, if he were to resign, or if he were to be removed, we would not have to call for a special election immediately, right? The way I thought the charter works is it would go to whatever the next election cycle would be. So it would be November.
That's correct. While the charter generally requires a special election be, and I don't have the exact provision in front of me, but requires a special election be called for the next available date. The next available date is the uniform election date.
Okay. Cool. Well, all that said, again, I don't know how I really wish Michael was here so we could talk. I know he had connectivity issues, I believe.
And if I could expand a little on that,
please.
the reason it would go into November is because there are other sections of the election code that set out timing requirements for calling an election. We could not call an election.
We don't have enough time.
We don't have enough time to call one for May.
Got it. Thank you for, I do agree with Councilman Compion. I feel like, I wish Councilman Carlson would see that I think this puts the council in a compromised position. And I'm so happy for him and this new position. But I do think in order to serve on a council, you have to live in the city full time. I think that's what makes sense. But so after all those questions, thank you for listening to everyone ask my questions. Those are my 2 cents.
Kevin, did you want to add?
She asked some of the questions that I wanted to. It's very interesting to me that we did have this situation not too long ago. And it wasn't an issue. And the house was sold. And that person was still allowed to serve. And everybody knew it. Until we made it public. So I do think that he is the duly elected person for council, for District C. And I think that people need to speak to that as they have already done. So that we don't have to get involved in it because it is sticky. It is very sticky. Since we do have, Councilman Michigan's brought up about voter suppression. That is happening all over the state of Texas today. And where Democratic elected people write the people that they have chosen. That's happening, in Texas, that's happening in Mississippi. And so let the people speak. He is their representative. let the people speak. That's all I have.
May I ask a question there?
Yeah.
Inquiry. And perhaps to Gus as well. This is only permissible because we continue to have Zoom meetings. Is that accurate to say?
I wouldn't know that would be accurate to say, because that would presume that Mr. Carlson would decide that he couldn't make the meetings unless he made them through Zoom, which would probably happen, but we can't assume that.
And so, as some other jurisdictions have done, have returned to in-person meetings. I'm just saying that's.
Let me say this. Let me say this to us, because I think we get off course. I think that sometimes political pressure makes us move in directions in ways that might not be conducive for the overall advancement of our city. The issue is not whether or not Michael lives in the city or he doesn't live in the city. The issue is whether or not the council has the power to do anything about it. That charter was written at a time that the council indeed and in fact had the power to remove council members based on residency. We live in an entirely different world where residency is apparently, according to the courts, a matter of the heart and of the intent of the mind. This council, nor can any other council, navigate the mind and the heart of a man. There is no evidence that we have been presented to suggest that this man does not live in Lamarque. He is homesteaded. He has his voter registration is in Lamarque. His family is in Lamarque. He has a mortgage in Lamarque. And whether or not, to Joe's point and to Casey's point, whether or not he can be an effective council member is a very good question, but it's not a question for this council. Question for this council, according to the charter, is whether or not we can disqualify him based on his residency. And according to Gus, it is highly unlikely that we would be successful. If that's true, then there are other remedies in our charter for those members of our community. I am a resident of District C, and so I'm one of those members. There are other remedies that are already underway. There is a recall, apparently, petition that is already underway. And more importantly than what the district member, the council member of District B, or the council member of District D, or even the mayor, or even Kim, council member of District A, I don't mean to disrespect Kim, but that's my friend. Regardless of what we say, what's most important is the residents of District C. That process is already underway. And if that process is successful, it will take care of itself. And if that process is unsuccessful, we need to be listening to the residents of District C. It's just the way I see it. Any further questions? Well, I think we should probably just run on past that and go to 11:5. Items for the good of the order. Who wants to start?
I don't mind going, Chief.
Go ahead, Mayor. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Sorry. Well, first, speaking of Chief, because I guess he's on my mind, I want to recognize, and Chief Merriman, you might give me the exact names of the firemen, but I received a call from a long-time resident of Lamarque, and not in my district, let me make it clear, but I've been around a long time and they've been around a long time. So they know my home phone number, and I still have a home phone number. And so it's easy to pick it up and call. And she called wanting to see if I could track down 2 firemen that responded to her emergency when she had a stroke. And I said, certainly. And I told her I'd immediately put her in contact with Chief Merriman. And I think Chief Merriman, you were able to follow through and communicate with Ms. Giffortone, I believe.
I did not answer when you called.
Oh, okay.
We're still tracking down who those firemen.
Okay, all right.
As soon as I can get a date. I have the date, I got it from you, but you can get the address, I'll have it. I'll have it printed there.
No, very, very good. Well, I just want to recognize them for, she was very pleased with that response.
But I'm
And-
gonna have you those names tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And I want to congratulate the Keep Lamarck Beautiful Commission and also the Salvation Army with the collaboration that occurred on Saturday with the food box distribution. City manager, I think that's something that we're going to attempt to do on a monthly basis. By the way, that's something that occurred after Hurricane Uri, as I recall, was the first distribution of that. And then we're continuing that, and that's an excellent community collaboration. Just to remind that on Wednesday, Chief Aragon, we have our first catalytic converter event over at the Walmart from 11 to 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. From 11 to 2 p.m. If you haven't reserved your spot, please call. And no, they're all gone. Oh, they're all full. See there. Oh my God. See there.
I was gonna report that.
Oh,
I was gonna report
excellent.
on that.
On that one. So that that is something that is dynamic. God willing, I'll be out there with you guys too, and if I can help out in any way. And then I guess you see it here. It's in the Hurricane Huddle. We'll be out there as well for all district B residents who seem to always come out to attend that event. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I
was shy.
I don't have anything.
Okay, so this is our Stop the Violence Week. We're very excited about it. The young man that spoke earlier, I was actually in the classroom and I was introducing myself as the city council woman. And he began to share about the difference on his street. And I thought it was very moving. And so I talked to his mom and asked him to come and put that on the record. It's very fulfilling when you meet young people and they tell you the difference a year makes. And hats off to our police and our community policing program and our chief and just the neighbors on the street that have worked together since we started Stop the Violence Week last year. Because of that and working together, violent crime is down 30% in Lamarck. The house that was a notorious house on that particular street is now for lease, and those participants are now gone. And so that is a tangible deliverable when we come together intentionally and work together for a common good. And so that goes back, hats off to the mayor and his council and our chief, who with the public safety plan that we're still initiating and we're trucking through. So that is something that we can see. And I'm so glad that his mom brought him. He's a sixth grader at Giles Middle School. And so when we do those type of things and engage in our community and really work together, it shows what we can do. So today was City Hall. A lot of people are watching. They were watching earlier. Tomorrow is our Calm Leadership Day. Wednesday is our Mental Health Talk Day. Thursday is our 10 to 12 Business Mixer. Friday is Market on 3, where we're encouraging the community to come to that. And on Saturday is our basketball tournament and job and housing fair at the high school from 12 to 6 p.m. And so I encourage you all to come. And then we're having an all-white affair and comedy show at different locations across Texas City and Lamarck. So this is about unity in the community and sharing our stats from Lamarck and what we're doing and basically controlling the narrative, which sometimes we don't always do. And when you don't tell people the good job that you're doing, then they begin to tell your story. And it's important to me, ever since we've been elected, to make sure that Lamarckians tell our story, the good and the bad. But we have to be the one to let people know what we're doing in a positive way. So I'm really proud about Stop the Violence, and hats off to some of our sponsor that's provided shirts and trophies. We passed them out today, Mayor, and they were looking forward to them. The same shirts. I have some today. If you would like some after the meeting. But I'm really proud of the work that we've done. In spite of everything, we've done some amazing work, and hats off to you, Cesar, and your team. And sometimes we don't say that enough. And I just want to say, it's when we look for the sunshine that's when we find it. But we've got to make sure that we look, because if we don't, we can get caught up in a lot of mud, and mud doesn't do anything but cover. And so what we want to do is show our best spots that we have here in Lamarck. And I look forward to that and working with you for the summertime and all the upcoming events that we have. Thank you so much. And I'm going to miss Casey.
She has one more, well, two more, actually. We have
You
a,
have two more?
we
Okay.
have a first of the month meeting and then she has to come to canvass the vote. So we have
Very
two
much
more
issue.
times. Yeah.
Well, I will say, I'll just say the most important thing ever, which is thank you to all the staff. Thank you to all of you sitting in the back. Thank you for everyone's patience in between meetings, prepping things for us, getting the work of the city done every day. Thank you so very much. And thank you to, man, the stalwarts who just sit in these chairs, just listening. It's impressive to me. It really is. I think I have learned so much as an adult and a human in my time here. I'm not going to like go on and on about it. I promise. I'll save that for 2 meetings from now. But you know, my engagement with council has changed a lot over the last 6 years. You know, I think Rashard could tell you, I hardly ever attend a Keep Lamarck Beautiful Commission meeting anymore. And I used to attend all of them and I used to be very engaged, and my life has changed a lot in the last few years and my demands are bigger. And I think really one of the biggest takeaways for me is just how much work it is to make things work and how many people it takes. And it's just such a precious investment for the people up here, for the people whose job it is, and for the people who are citizens and who give a hoot. It's quite overwhelming. So thank you. I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you, Casey. I see Councilmember Carlson has joined us tonight. Welcome, Councilmember Carlson.
Yes, sir. My apologies to you, Mayor, Council, and constituents. I thought Houston traffic was bad, but Portland traffic is worse. My address for the record is 500 East 2nd Street, Mosher, Oregon.
Very good. Did you have some items for the good of the order?
For the good of the order, I do. Now that I found out Casey has 2 more meetings, I will save that for her. I will save my thank yous and all the tear jerks for 2 more meetings. The only good of the order I have is I am hardworking up here. And the reason why I say I'm hardworking, I've handled 2 constituents' complaints, or am in the process of handling it. So I'm still diligently working. Despite what some may say, I am still working for the community. And I appreciate everyone and PD on the recent narcotics bust. Good job. Thank you. And please pass that on to the rest of the task force. And that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We wanted to remind you of on next agenda, we want to have the EDC have an item where we can see if they would finance this Lamarck 2020 project. They've done it in the past. So perhaps they might be willing to help us. That's too much for your staff to handle. We can see that clearly early on. Also, we want to work on some event criteria. Obviously, we have requests. We want to make sure that we have criteria in place. I would like a recommendation from you on whether or not that would be part of the Parks Board's function, or if we would need some sort of ad hoc event staff for the council to consider. Thirdly, I wanted to remind all of us that early voting has started, I believe, today. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Today, and it runs through May 2nd.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just this week,
Yes.
from 8 to 5.
8 to 5, and then next week,
First and the second.
the Monday and Tuesday, is that 7 to 7?
7 to 7.
Thank you. 7 to 7. And I said that to say that there are 2 contested races in our city. One for Council Member District B, the other for Council Member District D. Please go out and vote. Get to know the candidates, get to know their issues, and vote your conscience. And if you've done that, you've done your part. There are also charter amendments, and anyone involved in this city can vote on these charter amendments. We just so happen to happen, the chairman of our Charter Amendment Review Committee, sitting in the front row, former Councilmember James Osteen. I believe Mr. Loftus, Rashard Loftus was on that committee. I think Ms. Austin served. Man, I got a good memory on that committee. Mr. Pennington, you were on the whole committee's here tonight. And so these people, on their own, without council influence, went through the charter line by line, and they made recommendations. Is that correct? They brought those recommendations forward to council, and all we did was approve them for the ballot. We didn't change, add, or delete in any way. Get to know those amendments so that you can be educated, so that you can vote your conscience. Again, if you've done that, then you've done your part. Lastly, I want to, I don't know that I can even ask that. I don't even know if we can even enter that in. Gus, there is someone wants to correct a point of information from earlier. There was a comment made in the 3-minute section that there may be a correction to a point of information. I don't know if you want to recommend we allow that or we move past it.
If it was during the 3 minutes, we're not really supposed to be deliberating on that. And if we respond to it, it would be deliberating.
Very good, very good. Thank you. What are you asking, Jeff?
The tech dot reimbursements,
You want to speak to it?
the tech dot reimbursements, Mayor. When do we have those pipeline?
We can meet on that.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Election day is May 6th. Again, we thank you all for being a part of this meeting tonight. Let's remember, this is a community and we all have different positions. And it is our right to assert those positions. It's our right to apply political pressure to this council. That's everyone's right. We don't want anyone to believe or feel that their rights are being hindered in that way. But we simply, in my opinion, as a council, we have to consider all of those pieces of information and act in what we believe is in the best interest of the city. Does not mean that we don't face political pressure, does not mean there aren't differences of opinion, does not mean the people that we differ with from time to time aren't citizens of this great city. And so we move forward. Sometimes we move forward in unison, and sometimes we move forward with discord, but we move forward. So thank you for all of the political opinions and those concerns that were shared tonight. I believe we had a good meeting, a healthy meeting. And I believe that we are ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Did you want to, I'm sorry, Carrie. We went through, I thought we went through those events.
Yeah, you have the upcoming events.
We went through all those, I thought. Did we not? Do you want us to go over them again?
Oh,
I can read them line by
Oh, you
line.
did it. You did it.
You sure? Hurricane Huddle is.
Yep.
All right, I did it. I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, if I may, there is an executive session item. If anyone has any questions for me about Circles X, if you don't, we don't have to do it.
I'm fine.
Well, we'll move past that and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor.